Get ready. Hold tight. It's
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday week.
A little bit old.
Without deep into Danny Roll, please don't.
It's been truly horrific having made a season away from home.
I want goals.
Anyone would think that we rehearse this, and I guarantee that we haven't.
How poor do we have to be before it's happened? How much blood from this stone do we have to get?
The Wednesday week! Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Meek. I've got it wrong straight away there, Pete. I've done really badly. Tonight it's Hello from the Other Side edition, and we're talking to Do Not Scratch Your Eyes in the talking about the upcoming. You can tell I'm out of practice. I've been off of this for a few weeks. Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast, talking about the upcoming game against Watford in
Hello from the other side.
yeah.
Like,
It's quite tumultuous. Is that theme there? I get a lot of negative and positive feedback about it at the same time.
never knowingly understated. And after all, you're the meek. You're inheriting the earth. You've got to have a bit of a Dell going on, haven't you?
Exactly that. Pete, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We've got the game this weekend coming up. My apologies about that intro. Like I said to you, I've been out of the game for a while. It's been my birthday the last week, and I'm on a good 5-day hangover right now after our game against Portsmouth on Friday, and then last night with Brentford in the Cup. It's been a hell of a week, and I'm just starting to find my feet getting back into it. So Pete, we're facing each other up at the homestead in S6. It's going to be, well, I was going to refer to it as the Alban Abdi Derby, but I know that's I was listening to your prequel with Stevie on your side of it, and
Yeah, sorry
there was
about
a
that.
point you guys thought you were giving us a good player there, right?
We were giving you a good player. What you did to break the man, we have no idea. I mean, for us, when people remember the Pozzo family took over, and suddenly we were like, we were firing a manager every 3.5 weeks. We suddenly had 104 loan players, and he was one of the originals who came in. And genuinely, and I know and I understand, and I apologise to all the Sheffield Wednesday fans who are going, "That's not the player you sent us; it's a different one." But he was simply masterful, and he was incredibly intelligent in the midfield. He got goals from it. You could play him anywhere. He played one season in the Premiership at right back, and was still one of our biggest attacking threats. But just because we got like this embarrassment of riches for about a fortnight, it's Watford. We're back at our natural place now. But so yeah, sorry about that. But hey, you got Forestieri and you got the wonderful Danny Poodle, who we liked a lot. So yeah, and then Cisco. Yeah, we've got a lot to apologise for. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away when it comes to Watford and Sheffield Wednesday. It's a hell of a combo. But yeah, Poodle was a bit of a crowd favourite, and obviously we don't need to talk too much about cheeky Nando. We all know what he's capable of, albeit absolutely insane. Now, as we go into this game, you guys are sitting just outside the playoffs in 7th. Yeah. Off and on in terms of September and January in terms of getting the results in. Not really found any kind of continuity in terms of results. Would I be fair to say?
Oh no, I think that is a little unfair, because basically at home we win or draw, and away we lose, and basically lose our shirt, our underwear, our dignity, everything that's going. So if when we had our local derby, and I appreciate everybody's obviously looking at the Steel City derby, but the little M1 one that we have with Luton is acidically contested. And we went there, and we had spent a fortnight minimum telling the team exactly what this meant. And they went there and just rolled over and had their tummy tickled because it was away from home.
But still, you got the moral victory with the shithousing on the social media. I mean, that tweet alone from your club account, taking in the sights or something like that, was absolutely sublime. I can't begin to imagine. I don't have the mental capacity to come up with something that good.
Well, I mean, I know a few of the lads there, and a few people kind of reacted very badly to it after the game, because, of course, it's like that kind of don't tempt fate, and then it comes and bites you in the arse. But the thing is what those people forget was when that they went up to the Premier League and obviously had their asses handed to them on a plate for a season and came back down again. But in that time, one of their directors in the Luton programme wrote out his whole load of notes. It went over about 3 pages, of which every start of a paragraph was like, kind of emboldened and then initialed the first word, so that over 3 pages it basically said Watford are shit. So look, if you're going to get that from the director's box, at some point we're going to dish a little bit back. Hey, for a lot of people, it's very vicious and very nasty and very hotly contested. It's just football. At the end of the day, it is still just football. Yes, it means it's more important than all the other, unimportant things in the world. Of course, it's what makes a good weekend or a bad weekend. But at the end of the day, it's still a bit of a laugh, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Very much so. But let's get back to results. So, at home, you're quite strong. Away, not so much. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely on it. We haven't got a point away from home since the first game of the season. Even then, when we were at Millwall, we were 2-0 up, absolutely trouncing all over them, and then managed to construe to give 2 goals away and got the last minute winner completely against the run of play. Suddenly, since then, not a jot away from home. 3-0 to Preston when they hadn't won for absolutely ages. Again, Luton Town have basically been on a dreadful run, obviously, in the Premier League. You can understand that, but obviously they haven't started well. No, we'll get their season going as well. So, yeah, got to turn sometime. We're basically, really, really clinging on to the law of averages with the hope here.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the statistics as well, and we've lost the same amount of games because you just don't draw. I think you've had one all season, right? You either win or you draw. That's it. That's Watford now. That's us done. But we're not. We're going to do the American model. There's no draws.
Pretty much, we turn up and we've got character, or away from home we turn up and we are so limp as to really not be there. I've seen wet spinach with more resistance than we've had away from home this season. We can just get wrung out, basically. Other spinach jokes are available.
So let's talk about start of season expectations then. You saw Luton come down, and the season's not very old as it is yet. I mean, people now are just starting to take a look at the league and we're going, oh, Sunderland are really good this season. I've just realised, it's got to that time of the year. How did you feel like the season was going to go before it started?
Because obviously everybody's looking at the transfer window, and we are one of those teams who, again, we're going to declare another profit, but again, because we've shifted players like Asprilla and Kone, and we brought in again some we're kind of heavy on the loans this year, and none of them are particularly doing brilliantly in terms of the loans that I can immediately think of. But in the final week, we brought in Jebison, who obviously it was the other side of the city, but had a blood clot, got sold to Bournemouth, and has then been thrown to us. He hasn't yet broken wind, let alone stride, let alone stuck. And he's been missing for the last couple of games, and he was one of the big hopes. We are pretty good at the back, apart from the fact we've got some injuries. We brought Bonner in from West Ham on the last day of the transfer window.
Great signing.
Yeah, he came in. He's been absolutely great. However, we were playing him like he was 26 rather than he's 36 in terms of regularity. And now he's got a hamstring. We'll see how long he'll be out for. So suddenly what we had at the start, because we started off the season like a house on fire with 5 straight wins. And needless to say, 4 of which were at home, clearly, just to keep the theme going. And it was, since the injuries have come in, it's been apparent how thin in many areas the squad is. We've probably got what Sissoko and Tom Dele-Bashiru. Tom Dele-Bashiru is now injured. That's our proper central midfield. So we're having to drop KMB a little bit deeper in, play along with Sissoko. Sissoko is another 36-year-old. Where we are strong is in attacking areas when we get going, and we've got a guy called Quadwo Bar. Our very favourite of all our Quadwos is Quadwo Bar, and he looks like Traore, the lad who was at Wolves and is now at Fulham.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like built like the proverbial brick outhouse. He's got incredible speed. He's got incredible power where he can come through. He's got a good finish, and it's like, wow. The problem is, because we don't really have an out and out focal point centre forward, he's a player who should really be, when he goes to the right, he ripped Man City apart. I mean, absolutely limb from limb. He didn't get given a penalty. had a goal disallowed, which was a great goal, basically because the 16-year-old, and he was the one kind of chink in their armour, just bounced off of him, and he went, "Oh no, free kick!" And because you're wearing sky blue, so you
Yeah.
can't have that goal. Tremendous player, but he is so good. He's the one who provides the bullets, but he's also been played as a central centre forward, which isn't his game because of our kind of dearth of options that are ready. We've got a lad called Mamadou Doumbia, who's a Malian, but he's only 18, so they're kind of really drip feeding him in the cups, and he's had a few minutes here and there. Other than that, we've got a guy called Bio who we bought 3 years ago for however much. We've sold him to Udinese, but surprise, surprise, he's back with us on loan. And
I'm clutching my pearls in shock there, Pete. You and Udinese swapped a couple of
Udinese.
players.
Yeah, you may have heard of them. Yeah, but basically, wherever he was brought up, I don't know if they had any barn doors, but if they did, they were never in danger from fire. Cows at arse, banjo, you get it. So yeah, he works relatively hard. But that kind of stopped a few weeks ago, and then he basically got dropped to the bench and then brought on Saturday, and suddenly it was, where's this guy been? He's really putting a lick in. So yeah, no, we've got some good players still. We can't complain. We're still Watford, but we've still got those kind of number 10s. Probably the one that most people are getting noting on is Chakfadadze, because he was with the Georgia team in the Euros, and we'd had him for about 6 months, and we were watching him in the Euros going, bloody hell, who's this guy? Oh, he's one of ours. Oh, wow, who knew? He came back and has carried it on, but it's he's a lot of fun. He's very good at what he does, but it's where the end product is the question. So you wait and see, but it should be hopefully it should be a good game.
I reckon it's going to be one of those games that's got goals in it. I reckon I listened to your, like I say, your prequel podcast with my colleague Stevie, and the dog with a 3-2 win, calling out the and what's the name of that dog?
Jarvis Cocker Spaniel.
Jarvis Cocker Spaniel, brilliant, big fan of that, enjoying that. But what about league expectations at the start? Like, what were you thinking? Surely a team like yourselves that have bounced up and around the Premier League and the Championship over the last decade must be expecting playoffs minimum.
Well, the problem is when you come down from the Premier League, and this is now our 3rd season in the Championship, you're looking at basically kind of trying to get off the ship like the orchestra on the Titanic. It's like there's a lot who go off, get wages off the books, etc., etc. And now we've lost, because when we came down originally, we came back up for a season, then we came back down. So you only get 2 years of parachute payments. And I appreciate, I imagine there are Wednesday fans with the smallest violins in the world going, "Oh, you poor things."
Yeah. Ooh, you with your parachute. I bet you. I'm devastated for you, Pete. I'm gutted for you, mate.
I can get it. You can send contributions via Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. It's, but the thing is, you have to adjust the payments that are going on. Yes, 95% to the first team, but also other areas around the club that are, kind of all of the, for example, the community trust that we have. It gets so much funding from being in the Premier League, so it sets up things around that, and then that money suddenly just literally just vanishes. So it's like, well, okay, so you have to cut your cloth because of a lot of this kind of jettisoning going on over 2 years, and not seeing until the last week a real kind of investment into Tom Cleverley, who was with us in 2009 for a season loan, where he was absolutely brilliant. So we watched his playing career, great, and he ended it with us. So he's played more for us than any other team. Everybody wants him to do well. And all the people, when he got the interim gig and got the permanent gig, the only people who were in opposition were people who were worried, because with our track record, he'll be there for 3 weeks and then we're losing him forever, whereas he's been a good club servant. So everybody wants him to do well, and people were concerned. So, I mean, my colleague was, he's never the most optimistic, but he was saying 23rd. He really thought we got nothing in us. And then we start with 5 wins. So everybody was highly delighted. But as that happens, of course, expectations changed. I think, Tom talks a great game. He's gone through some difficult, tricky periods with those away games. He and everybody got right royally, shunted and booed at the Luton game, and frankly, quite rightly, because it was an utterly diabolical performance in a derby where the opposition, when you say they wanted it more, it's a cheap, easy kind of diagnosis. It's so right though. So but we tend to see a reaction. So it's just going to be really interesting to see what he does away from home. So we would hope to be. I think anything that's top 10 will anybody around the club will go, that is progress. Keep him there. Because what we want to see is some stability and some foundations in the coaching area to build upon slowly, because he's having to do this without all of the monies that the plethora of managers that we've had over the last kind of 2 years have had. It's cost us a small fortune. No, it's cost us a large fortune in paying up managers and their respective kind of management teams. Ridiculously so. So no. We're kind of cutting our cloth. We're trying to become sustainable. We're managing to make a profit by player sales. Keep that in place, because we're still, I think everybody still looks at a Berry or nearly Bolton the other year and goes, look, we need to be sustainable. I mean, you need I say Chancery to realise, kind of how, how delicate life can be as a football club.
Oh, it's a double-edged sword, because Chancery, when you've got the cold light today, let's say I supported a different club and I looked at Sheffield Wednesday and went, well, hang on a minute, this guy's come in. We in 2016 we signed a plethora of players, loads. We got loads in. He opened his checkbook and we missed out on the playoffs 2 seasons running. You know what I mean? We went for it, and everybody was clamoring, sign Jordan Rhodes, let's get Jordan Rhodes. He'll be the one. He's what we're missing, and he was. But turns out the Jordan Rhodes that we signed wasn't the one from 5 years prior, and this all of a sudden became an expensive mistake. And then since then, it's been trying to balance the books, and where Chancery let himself down is he's had some terrible advice and some terrible ideas in order to try and generate funds for the club. And then you look around at clubs such as Brighton and Brentford, who are, for all intents and purposes, small clubs. Even Bournemouth, you'd even argue, going back a good number of years, they're a small club punching above their weight, and our fans are sat here thinking, well, hang on a minute, we're doing our bit, we're turning up in numbers, we're paying our money. Why aren't we like them? Why can't we do that? And I feel like something's changed this season because he trusts the manager, because he trusts Danny Roll. I feel that there's a change there, because you mentioned earlier on stability, and Watford have a completely different model to anybody I've ever seen. in terms of the way clubs run, because it's just the next geezer in charge, the next bloke that turns up, the next fella to have the set of keys, and then we'll bin him off if it don't work. But then you also seem to unearth these players that no one's ever heard of from absolutely bullshit nowhere, and then they'll get a decent run out, and you might be able to turn a profit on about 60-70% of them. So it's a hell of a model. It's balls on the chopping block, Pete.
That's very unfair. You pronounce butt shit nowhere. Luton is the correct pronunciation phonetically. I'm just saying. No, you're right. But the thing is that we go back to 2012 was when the Pozzos took over, and look, Wednesday are a big club. I mean, Hillsborough is a massive stadium, and as and when because all these things are cyclical, it'll come round. When you get up there, it will be huge. It'll be absolutely nightmarish as the being in the Premier League is. When unless you're kind of fully established, but it'll come round. It'll be there. For Watford, we've had one golden era prior to the Pozzo era coming in, and that was Graham Taylor in the 1980s, and then he did a bit of a kind of a repeat performance in the late 90s, because to him, to us, he is like God. End of, really. You don't get 5 promotions at one club and not get kind of gold seated stature. But they came in, and in their first 10 years, we had 6 years in the Premier League, and we got to 2 cup finals. Two cup semi-finals and a cup final, and that's exactly what Graham Taylor managed in his first 10 years at the club. Yes, he came back and added to it, yet further still, but which is amazing. And they were doing that still with this sort of this whole concept that in their eyes we are a club of a certain scale and a certain size. And there's lots of people who keep kind of moaning at me occasionally when they say, oh, you think we're little Watford. We're on the edge of London. Right? Within an hour, anybody can be at West Ham, Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea. Right? In comparison, we are literally next door. Our training ground is next door to Arsenal because we bought their old one, and it's out this way. If you go walking in our, in the town here, you will probably see many Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, sometimes even West Ham. Definitely Man United, obviously, because clearly arseholes are everywhere. We are of the size we are. So to be able to do something different, if we try to do everything the same, we'll get
swallowed up.
everything we've got times our scale, which isn't enormous.
Yeah.
So they've done something very good. However, and there is a big however, we got relegated and they took their eye off the ball. They stopped doing what was important, which was exactly what you said there, which was the scouting of butthole nowhere players, i.e. players from underappreciated leagues, undervalued leagues, bringing people in, sometimes having them in for 2 or 3 seasons. So, for example, Brighton have got Estupinian at left back on occasions. They brought him in from Spain or from Villarreal. We know that because he came in, he signed for us, he played out on loan, he played one friendly game against Tottenham, and then we sold him for 23 million to Villarreal. Never kicked a ball in danger for us, but then ends up at Brighton, and everybody's going, look at Brighton stuff. Yao Pedro, we had him for 2 seasons because they signed him as like he had to wait till get his 18th birthday, which was like a year and a bit. Then they brought him in, and when he's 20, he now goes to Brighton, and everybody's going, look at what Brighton are doing. They absolutely are, but they've got £300 million debt because Tony Bloom can handle it, and because he can put it in. And rather than, what we've got, and Chansiri, sorry, we're on a bit of an ownership kick here, I appreciate that, is that he gives us, he's got loans, there is debt. It is still, it is much more the Man United kind of thing, where the Glazers still kind of reap money back in potentially.
Yeah. They're still paying themselves.
Yeah, effectively, it's still accruing, even though he's saying he's never going to claim that stuff in. There's still interest being paid. But so we are still finding these players on occasions. At one point, it stopped, and that was when everything went a bit squirrely, and our debt had gone up because suddenly we're a kind of established Premier League club, and we started buying people like Danny Welbeck again down at Brighton because we got him fit for a year after he was there. But no bad. He's gone down there. We needed to get him off the books at that particular time, but we started going for people who were not natural Watford players within the Pozzo model. Much better to get somebody in who's got a lot less expectations and have them fly than kind of trying to really boss it with the big boys, because we simply can't. We've got what, 20,000 odd seater stadium, and we're not filling that in the Championship. We're doing it's percentage wise, it's probably about 90%, something like that. But we're not a huge club. We have to do things cleverly in order to sustain the club by selling good players to make up for the 400 grand a week on average that the Championship clubs are losing operationally.
A lot of that goes. I didn't know how much we were paying the police when you start looking into those figures and stuff like that about the local law enforcement. But I tell you what, look, before we push for time, let's. I want to talk about 2 things. One, obviously, I want a score prediction, and the other one is we've had some good ding dongs, Watford. I remember in the 90s, I remember Nicholas Alexanderson scoring and Mark Kennedy planting one in the bottom left corner. Not 40 seconds later, that did me head in. Playing you guys in the cup where Paolo Di Canio got 2 bookings and got his marching orders for screaming at the referee. There's been some great ones. Is there any that stick out to you? Any that you remember?
This will sound really ridiculous. The end of the 1978-79 season. So I would have been 9, and we were trying to get up, and we were playing at Hillsborough, and we were 2-0 down at half time.
This is pre John Barnes, isn't it? And pre Graham Taylor, yeah.
No, this is Graham Taylor. This is Graham Taylor's. This ended up becoming Graham Taylor's second promotion.
It's his villain story arc.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we're 2-0 down at half time, and my folks hadn't split up by then, so I was kind of on at my dad going, well, can we go to the game? Because our last game was at home to Hull, and if we won at your place and we beat Hull, we were going up, but we were 2-0 down at half time. So he turned around and said, well, if we win this game, yeah, all right, I'll take you along. And we came back and miraculously a 3-2 result, but I was kind of pinned to, I don't know, World of Sport or Grandstand. Go and Google that. Anybody who doesn't remember that, to see. And so the result came in, and we went down and we beat Hull 4-0, and glory and wonder. Without that game at Hillsborough and our comeback there, it would have never happened. Then, of course, back in 2015, 2016, we're about a minute and a half away from winning the Championship as is, and some absolute asshole runs on from the Watford end to make it all about him, disturbs everybody, and then is it Nuyu? Scored from
Yeah.
the front. Of course, you're having it big because you're pissing on our party. And fair enough. Why wouldn't you? So we were like, we're up. And yet we're supposed to be, and it just killed that moment for everyone.
And it was the shittest volley. Like, he completely mishit it. He hit it into the ground. It bounced over into the top beans, and he to lose promotion.
As it went on, and I'm in the same stand as the away end. You could see the guy who'd come on. He'd been basically kind of marched off, and he was over and by the main stand. What was the main stand, or what was about to be built as the main stand? And the moment you guys scored, you saw the stewards bundling him in. You thought, yeah, I hope he gets it all.
Yeah, I hope he gets it. So what about this time round then, Pete? What are you feeling in terms of score? I'm going to go for Desmond. I think it's got goals in it. This
Desmond is a good thing to have. I'm going to go 1-1 simply because in our prediction league I never let anybody go for 1-1, so I have it as a matter of choice when I can.
You've got that in the pocket. Okay. Absolutely. Well, look, are you going all the way up there? I know some of your colleagues said they were going. Is it one of them? No, his first time to Hillsborough, wasn't he? One of your colleagues was saying.
Yeah, Carlos is our main away person. I tend to be here and doing a post-match phone-in
work
that we do. Yeah, so it's that I host that on away games and scurry back quickly and then do the same for home games, which of course are a lot happier and a lot more fun. But so we'll see how it goes. But no, Carlos will be there, and Justin was there at that one where Di Canio got sent off, and we'll tell anybody at the drop of a hat about it.
Hell of a day. Listen, Pete, thanks a lot, man. How do we find you on the socials? It's Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. Are you on the X's and the Y's?
Yeah, on Twitter. We've maintained to call it Twitter, obviously.
Nice.
At DNSYE_podcast. But we're also on DoNotScratchYourEyes.com. So, you can go there and have a look at it. For that Venn diagram for all those Sheffield Wednesday fans who want to know what's going on with Watford. But we are the more absurd area part of it. There's 1,000,001 Watford podcasts for no apparent reason.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Pete. Stay on the line. In the meantime, we've got Watford this weekend. Hope we have a good time. But we're in Pete's day a little bit and get some angry calls for the phone in after. See you later. Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week, bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there for podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.